Beyond Reason Radio.
So, do I have to start the show by talking about Roseanne?
No, you could talk about somebody else.
I mean...
Like,
I really...
Samantha Bee.
Oh, Samantha Bee. I mean, was anyone really watching that show to begin with, Samantha Bee? Was that show getting any ratings?
That's one of the theories they're working, is that she had to be, super overextend herself just to make an impression and get people to watch her show.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone doesn't know what we're talking about, Samantha Bee is a leftist commentator on TBS, kind of does tries to do like a daily show type
supposed to be a comedian.
Yeah, comedian / political commentator like the Daily Show, and she often starts out by bashing Trump and the Trump administration, and she called Ivanka Trump the C word. And you know what that whole controversy was about? You want to talk about Beyond Reason. You know what that whole controversy was about Ivanka Trump? All she did was tweet out a picture of her child over the Memorial Day weekend.
Correct.
And talked about how it's a beautiful day.
Right.
And that was for some reason, that was so bad of her to do because, there's immigrant children are being separated from your families. How could you tweet out a picture of your child when the Trump administration is doing whatever? I mean, what? If any Democratic president, if Chelsea Clinton had done the same thing under Bill Clinton when all that other stuff was going on, no one would have cared. One thing does not have to do with the other, but must have been so bad that she had to be called the C word. So Samantha Bee is getting some backlash. Yada, yada, yada. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee, the voice of reason, the voice of truth in a world that is beyond reason. We are on until 9 p.m. tonight right here on News Radio 102.5 WFLA.
But, of course, she did apologize for using that word and said she crossed the line and she was wrong. However, TBS has also come out and said she did the right thing by apologizing, but we also should not have allowed the word to be broadcast. We, too, made a mistake.
Now,
so in other words...
Did they bleep it out? Or did they actually...
I don't know. No, I think it was there. On cable.
I would find that hard to believe. If they didn't at least bleep it out on TBS?
That's what they say. They said that
I'd
made a mistake.
I'd have to look that up. I don't know. I mean, I obviously wasn't watching it live. So, no, it's not on my list of things to watch usually.
You mean you had better things to do, like wash your hair?
Yeah. I mean, you would rather wash your hair, even though
absolutely
you don't really have much of it up there. By the way, I am talking to Tom Benson. How are you, Tom?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
All right, so there's that going on. Okay, I guess I will talk about the whole Roseanne thing. I actually posted a podcast yesterday giving my opinion on the whole Roseanne thing. But I want to expand on it a little bit more, even though there's a bunch of other stuff in the world going on. Italy... The country, Italy, the big country in the European Union.
Yeah, the boot.
They're the boot. They are close to economic collapse. So there's that. Mm-hmm. We probably should pay more attention to that. They're threatening to leave the European Union, and the populists are taking over the government over there, and it might cause a debt default. And
but you're not talking about the big story from yesterday.
Apparently not.
The big story from yesterday was Kim Kardashian was at the White House.
I'm sorry. Forget Italy about to collapse.
Right.
Forget that Trump signed right to try legislation. Forget all of that.
The headline.
Kim Kardashian was at the White House. So why didn't I lead with that?
The big headline in the New York Post today was Trump meets the rump.
Yeah, I saw that. Trump meets the rump. Sometimes I look at 2018 and I'm just in total disbelief of my life. I'm like, sometimes I watch the news and I'm literally like, is this real? Yeah. Like, is this actually real, or am I watching a TV show or something? I don't know. So yeah, but the whole Italy thing's really interesting because what do you think their debt because they have this debt problem and they're close to default. Their debt to GDP ratio. So their debt compared to their gross domestic product is, let's see here. I had it. I think it's like 100. So it's 132% of GDP is their debt. That's a lot. Mm-hmm. So their total debt is 132% of their gross domestic product, and they're about to default. So I just got a little curious, and I was like, what is our debt to GDP ratio? I mean, Italy has all these problems. Should we be concerned about ours? Are we pretty close? So
Italy is 132.
Yeah, 132.
And ours is
as of 2015, so it's probably more now. It's 104%. So we're not quite there, but we're trying. We're getting close. Of course, it's the U.S., so we'll just, artificially make interest rates artificially low, so we don't have to pay it back, or we'll just print more money, or whatever. It will be fine.
Yeah, don't worry about
it. So there's that's going on. But I do actually want to talk about the whole Roseanne thing. And if you don't know about what happened with Roseanne, well, you must have been living in a deep hole with no sound somewhere in the middle of the wilderness to not know what happened with Roseanne. So she put out a racist tweet against Valerie Jarrett, comparing, said Muslim Brotherhood meets Planet of the Apes, obviously racist. ABC cancels her show, which of course they're going to cancel the show. Of course it was racist. But there's something that really bothered me about all of this yesterday. Immediately, what Trump supporters did was they played the whataboutism game. Did you notice that on social media yesterday? So instead of us all just kind of admitting that, okay, this was too far, Roseanne should not have said this, what did we do? Immediately, I saw Trump supporters everywhere try to defend her somehow. Not really defend her comments, but they had to play the whataboutism game. So immediately it went to, well, Bill Maher said this in the past, or this person, Keith Olbermann, said this in the past.
Absolutely.
Why weren't they? Immediately it went to this. And my first thought was, why? Why do we do this? Every time. It's very annoying why that we keep doing this. That we go, I mean, one really doesn't have to do with the other, but we immediately have to do this. So Roseanne gets fired, and if we've supported Trump, well, we have to go Roseanne now because Roseanne liked Trump. So now we're all on the same team, Tom. And so Roseanne was on our team. And so this is what we do now. We get in our tribal teams, and Roseanne says something bad, and we have to come up with some way to defend her because she's on our team.
That's
she's
right.
on our side.
That's right.
So we go and we immediately, and there is somewhat of a double standard. I understand.
Yeah.
But
I think it's more of a knock at the media than the actual happening that somebody else is doing it also. I think it's the fact that the media doesn't report both sides of it and doesn't give the other side the blaring headlines.
You're jumping ahead of me a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Because I literally was asking myself, why do we have to do this every time? Why do we have to immediately get on our teams with every issue, including one where a celebrity makes a racist tweet? And by the way, it's Roseanne. Roseanne has said some pretty crazy things in the past. She called for Wall Street bankers to be beheaded. She was a 9/11 truther. She's been a conspiracy theorist for a while. All kinds of things. Yeah. So the fact that conservatives were like, oh, Roseanne's on our team now, maybe we should have more of a training process before we accept people into our team.
Just don't let
tryouts. We need to have stricter tryouts before we add people to the conservative team.
Just don't ask Roseanne to sing the national anthem at the Republican GOP convention.
Yeah, exactly. That'll go over swimmingly. So if you don't know what he's referring to, just look it up. Look up her singing the national anthem at a baseball game in the 90s.
Yeah.
I believe. So I'm like, why do we have to do this? Why is it all of a sudden that Roseanne says something awful and we have to immediately get on our teams and have to find some way to defend her. And usually the defense is, well, it's a whataboutism. Well, what about this person said that? What about this person? It's a double standard argument, other side. And I'm like, why do we have to do this? Well, Tom Benson, the first cut I have up there is a montage of some reaction of Roseanne's comments by certain media commentators. And then you will understand why Trump supporters get so defensive. Here it is.
We know what Donald Trump thinks. We know what Roseanne Barr thinks. It's racist. They're exhibiting racist behavior.
It was a great move yesterday. The thing that sort of is the background of all of this is that the president can be racist and nothing happens to him.
Roseanne's show canceled because she tweeted out racist stuff. You know who I blame for this? Donald Trump. That's who.
So, of course, Trump supporters are going to be defensive because you have Roseanne, who's a crazy person, been a crazy person for a while. And then you have certain people in the media, they have to make Roseanne an example of the typical Trump supporter. Well, so Roseanne isn't just Roseanne. She is now the quintessential Trump supporter.
Those media people are just as crazy, except they have a suit on.
Yeah. But those are the typical, they want to make Roseanne the typical Trump supporter. In fact, she wasn't those weren't the only people that said something about this, and we'll get to that in a second. But that's why we get defensive, because immediately, no matter what issue we're at now, we get on our teams. You have one side who says, well, we have to defend Roseanne. She's a Trump supporter, which means we have to like her, which means she's on our team, and we don't care about things individual anymore. We don't care about the truth. We just care about our team, so we're going to defend Roseanne. But then you have the other side that comes on, and they say, well, Roseanne said this, and Roseanne's a Trump supporter. So this must be what the typical Trump supporter thinks, because that's what it is. She's just an example of the typical Trump supporter. So here we are today. Now the political division continues, when really we should all just agree that what Roseanne said was crazy. In fact, that wasn't the only media person that came out and made that comparison. You have Angela Davis was on CNN earlier this week. She's a CNN commentator, New York Times commentator, all of that. And she also made the comparison saying basically all Trump supporters are racist. Here it is.
He's made it more popular, I think, to be openly racist. And I think it's important that we don't make Trump seem this untouchable thing, that no one gets to be Trump but Trump. Tens of millions of people voted for him after he showed his cards for years.
But are you suggesting that they're racist, or
yes.
The people who vote, all the people who voted for Donald Trump are racist?
Yes. They may not be violently racist. They may not be he's targeted. He's very clear and strategic. Look, anti-blackness is a strategy that has been the foundation of part of the American project. So if we have to grapple with the idea that if you heard someone call at their rally, say, build a wall, kill them all. If you heard someone say that the current sitting president was the N-word.
Listen, you know that people interpret this differently. And to paint with as broad a brush as you are, saying that everybody who voted for him is racist, you know how people operate. They compartmentalize, and they'll say that people compartmentalized during Bill Clinton, and you overlook the things that you're uncomfortable with because you like the policy.
But here's what
broad a brush stroke.
But racism isn't broad. So what you're not hearing is that there's so many different levels of racism and how it works itself out.
Yeah,
right?
I hear you.
So there's levels to how it is interpreted, and there's levels to how it is acted out. And most of the time, we are operating in racist structures. So you, as an individual, may not understand that you are racist, but you are working in a racist structure.
So did you get all that? She not only said that, well, the thing is, this is an example. Roseanne, one crazy person says something obviously racist. Not only is that an example of the fact that all Trump supporters are racist, that's what she's saying. But if you don't know, if if you don't think you're racist, well, you're a part of the racist structure.
Of course.
So even if you don't think you're racist, even if you don't know you're a racist and you supported Trump, you are a racist.
Right.
So here we are today. So if you want to know why the whataboutism game was being played by the Trump supporters, if you want to know why immediately they have to get defensive of Roseanne, that's why. And that's where we are in today's world.
And what they don't ask themselves is, if the American people went for Trump, how bad is Hillary Clinton?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I mean, that's the political. I mean, they will never blame Hillary Clinton.
Well, of course not.
They'll blame the American people. The American people are too stupid. The American people are too racist. And they're sexist, too. So that's why they didn't vote for Hillary Clinton. But, I mean, to me, it was really frustrating because obviously what Roseanne said was racist. Obviously, she's a conspiracy theorist. Obviously, she's not a conservative, never has been a conservative. We used to be a radical leftist, said radical things in the past, and she comes out and says something crazy, gets fired by ABC, and you have a lot of the Trump supporters coming out trying to defend her in some way, and it's all back to what I talk about all the time on this show. It's because we're obsessed with the team we're on. We're obsessed with the side we're on, and we play this game back and forth all the time now. It's all we do. Instead of looking at individual situations or looking at the truth. I want to expand more on this when we get back. I have some voices of reason on this as well, and there's a lot more to get to on the show today. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee. We'll be right back.
If you miss any of the show, you can download the Beyond Reason podcast on iTunes. The voice of reason in a world that is beyond reason is back now.
All right, so we have Steve the Ranter on the phone. He wants to rant at me as usual, I'm sure. Steve from Melbourne Beach. We'll let him rant for a second. Go ahead, Steve.
Hey there. This morning was fantastic with Bud and you guys, with Parkland, and you played the audio of
Steve, that's not what we're talking about right now.
I know, but that's.
I was going to get to that later in the show.
Wait. This stuff with this Rosie. Who cares? Move on. Don't.
Okay, then I will. I mean, we're not talking about that right now. You knew we weren't talking about that. You're talking about the morning show. I'll get to the Parkland thing later. This is how a radio show works, people. You want to call and comment on what we're talking about. Don't call on something that's off subject. It's not that difficult, really. If you don't like what we're talking about, then listen to something else. I don't care. But don't call and then change the subject. If you want to comment on what we're actually talking about, then call and do that. I actually am going to get to the whole thing with the Parkland shooter later in the show because I do want to comment on that. I had a little crisis of conscience with what we did this on the morning show.
Uh-oh.
And, yes. And Bud and I have a little disagreement on that. So we'll get to that in a second. Yeah.
Front page of the paper tomorrow morning.
Yeah, I'm sure they care. But I do want to get back to the Roseanne thing for a second because there is a part of me when Steve says, move on, who cares? There was a part of me that wanted to do that because there are other things going on in the world. But once again, it's not the actual event that fascinates me. It's the reaction.
Right.
It's the reaction I see, and it's important because I'm constantly seeing similar themes in American politics today that are reflexive of our society. And right now, what I see in American politics mostly today, and it's unfortunate, is we are so focused on our side winning that we are willing to give up morality, we're willing to give up truth, we're willing to give up character, because we just want to win.
And civility.
And to me, that's not a good thing. And Roseanne is the latest example of that. And Trump was an example of that as well. I wanted to play some voices of reason on this. I happen to hear Greg Gutfeld. He's on the 5 every day. A couple days ago, he gave his comments to the Roseanne thing. And I thought he was right on the money and a voice of reason on this. So I wanted to play that. So here it is.
So Roseanne disappeared faster than a classified email on a Clinton server. Ooh. ABC saw the handwriting, hit warp speed. It's new crisis PR, one-stop liquidation while you wait. But I'll be honest, I'm kind of sad. I'm not shocked. I'm sad. And I'm not sad for Roseanne. I'm sad that this experiment failed. When Roseanne first aired, why did it intrigue us? It wasn't the content. The show was a mess. It wasn't because we loved Roseanne. We knew she was kind of nutty. No, we liked it because maybe it signaled progress in civil discourse, where the pros and the cons could break bread instead of bones. But not anymore. And so the world moves on to whoever's next. Of course, you know who the media will target. And so the left takes the idiotic words of one person and blames it on millions. So it's no more about Roseanne's awful tweet. It's about the left expanding the tweet to the president and, by connection, half of America. Which raises one interesting question. Did President Obama own Roseanne's nutty beliefs from years ago? She once said Wall Street bankers should be executed. She believed the Boston Marathon was staged. Is that on Obama since they happened when he was in office and she was a hardcore leftist? No, that's absurd. But this current blanket of blame that's now being spread suggests it's always been there, regardless of Roseanne. If it wasn't her, it would be someone else. So the left doesn't actually need Roseanne to smear you. They're at war with you already.
All right, so there you go. I think he was exactly right. It was kind of the point that I was making to begin with. He was saying exactly what I was saying. The real issue here isn't so much what Roseanne said. Everyone agrees that what Roseanne said is awful, and she should have been fired, and it was completely inappropriate. But the issue became the fact that people in the media and people on the left tied Roseanne to the typical Trump supporter and labeled the typical Trump supporter as Roseanne. And when you do that, you're going to get people defensive on the other side. So you have one side, because their team has to win, bash all Trump supporters because of Roseanne. And then you have your other side, because their team has to win, be extra defensive of Roseanne. Now, another problem that I had with the whole Roseanne thing, I'm going to mention in a sec, but I happen to hear another voice of reason of the day, Glenn Beck, on a show a couple days ago, made the point pretty much that I made on a podcast that I recorded yesterday. Same point, but he did an excellent job of it, and it's really, really important. So I wanted to play it for you. He's on our station 9 to noon every day here on News Radio 102.5 WFLA. You can hear him then usually, but I wanted to play this as well. Here he is.
The latest real episode, the real-life episode of Roseanne, is just a microcosm of major cultural problems. But the tragic underlying issue here is character and how little we value character at all. And it's causing chaos in every sector of society. Both the left and the right now believe character only matters depending on the situation and whether or not it affects or halts their team from winning.
I think he's exactly right. This is the big problem that I had with Roseanne, with how we reacted with everything, is we have a problem now where neither side cares about character. Roseanne should have never been on our team. A lot of people wanted to watch Roseanne because, hey, she supports Trump. And then all of a sudden she got all these different supporters. We love Roseanne now. Why? Did you actually watch the show? The show was not conservative. The show was definitely not Christian. Roseanne is not a conservative, and she's known to be a crazy person in the past. These things should have mattered to us instead of us just praising Roseanne to the hilt because she was a Trump supporter and she's a celebrity. But they didn't matter to us anymore, and it doesn't seem to matter to anyone on either side. There's another issue that I had with all of this yesterday that really bothered me. I saw people on social media, because they were trying to make the whataboutism argument, they were posting a picture of Whoopi Goldberg. And apparently it showed Whoopi Goldberg wearing a T-shirt at a rally that had Trump on her T-shirt, shooting himself in the head. And saying something like that. He, wishing that Trump would just shoot himself in the head.
Right.
And, if Whoopi Goldberg can wear this shirt and not be fired, how come Roseanne was fired? That's what I was seeing yesterday. Here's one problem with that. That picture is fake. The picture's fake. That is not a real picture. That was debunked months ago. And you know what's really sad about that? All it takes is a 2-second Google search to figure that out. It wasn't difficult for me to figure out that the picture was fake. It only took 2 seconds for me to use my critical thinking thoughts to look it up and realize that that picture is fake. That is not the shirt she was wearing. That's photoshopped. But people were so desperate for their side to look better and to be defensive and to hit the media, hit the other side, that they were willing to ignore the truth and put up fake news without even thinking about it. Without even thinking about it. They don't care. They don't care if it's true. It fits my preconceived notion. Is anyone else bothered by that? That was Trump supporters doing that yesterday, and I had to point out to them, that's a fake picture. Wasn't that difficult to find out? Quick Google search, Whoopi Goldberg picture, Trump, all over the place, debunked, fake. And yet people were still putting it out there. They don't care. They just automatically believed it because it was against Whoopi. This is not good. This is a problem. We have to stop with the tribalism and start maybe focusing on the truth. Let's take another call here, and you can call 407-916-5400 if you want to give your take. Let's go to Gene in Orlando. Gene, what's your take on all this?
Well, while you were doing your monologue, I got another take for what I call for. You just showed the difference. I told your call screener that I didn't care, and I don't. I think it's stupid. I never agree with the media. And as far as these stupid so-called comedians making fun of somebody else, it's a waste of time. If they want to say that, let them say that. But you just hit a thing that's a topic that separates us. Most of the young people get on the internet and get their news and get all frustrated about that. I wouldn't waste my time on the internet.
Well, I mean, you can talk about wasting your time on the internet, whatever. The fact is, most people that were posting the fake news, they were older people. They were not young people. They were older people on Facebook posting that stuff and believing that stuff. But it bothers me. It bothers me that we just automatically believed the fake news. We have to focus on the truth. I mean, I understand we want to be supportive of Trump and we want to be defensive because the media is constantly attacking him. But we have to remember what we're supporting. 407-916-5400. You can text to 23680. I have a lot more stuff to get to on the show today. I haven't even got to. I focused way too much on the Roseanne thing, more than I originally wanted to. So we'll get to that and take your calls as well. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee. We'll be right back.
If you heart Beyond Reason Radio, listen to the Beyond Reason Radio podcast on iHeartRadio. Just download the iHeartRadio app and search Beyond Reason Radio. This is Orlando's Smart Talk Radio. Beyond Reason Radio continues now.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee. We're on until 9 p.m. tonight, right here on News Radio 102.5 WFLA. So earlier in the show, I kind of teased this, but I had a little bit of a crisis of conscience this morning. So as you know, my main job on WFLA is the producer of the morning show. Mm-hmm. Good Morning Orlando, Bud Hedinger. One of the big things, the big stories that broke yesterday was video was released of the Parkland shooter. And because he recorded video on his cell phone before he did the shooting, talking about why he was doing the shooting, and it was really disturbing, the things he was saying. And Bud, because he's a news guy, decided we got to play all of it. So we played all of it on the show this morning and said his name multiple times. And we had a bunch of callers and texters call in and text this as well and make the comment that we are doing exactly what that shooter wants. Because one thing that they want, when you record a video like that, you want other people to see it. That's why you do it. He wasn't just talking to himself. He was talking to other people. And he was saying, when you see me on the news, you'll know why. And it's a common trend, a common theme with a lot of these mass shooters, that one of the reasons they do it, one of the main reasons they do it, is for fame and attention. They want the attention that they get from it, the notoriety that they get from it. And a lot of people were upset at us this morning for playing that audio and constantly saying his name, because we are feeding the problem, feeding the monster, so to speak. And honestly, I kind of agree with those callers and texters. I think they made a valid point in criticizing us for that this morning. So this morning, I recorded it and played it because it's my job. I'm the producer, Bud's the host. If he wants to play it, I have to record it and play it. That's fine. But I have to admit, if I were the host of that morning or on this show, I don't think I would have played it. And I don't think I'm ever going to play it on this show, and I don't think I'm ever going to say his name again. I have said his name in the past. Maybe I shouldn't have. Because I tend to agree that it's a problem. We talked about a lot in the show that the guns are not new when it comes to these mass shootings. These guns have been around forever, and we didn't have this problem, at least not to the frequency that we have it now. But one thing that is common is, one, there's a lot of similarities between the shooters. There's differences as well, but one of the similarities is they want attention. They usually talk about it before they do it, and they usually research past mass shooters. Most of the mass shooters, they do research on the past one, especially the school shooters. So, and people were saying, well, there's Parkland shooters in jail now. He's in solitary. He'll never see it. He doesn't know he's getting all this notoriety. That's not the point. The point is the next mass shooter will see that this shooter is putting his face is all over the media. It was all over the place yesterday. And the future mass shooter will see that, see what happens, and think to themselves, hey, I could get the same notoriety if I do it as well. So I think there is an argument to be made that we shouldn't be playing it. And we shouldn't be plastering it all over the media. And I understand there's an argument that, well, everyone else is doing it, so who cares if we do it? But maybe we should set an example to be better. And maybe it's a small example, but it's an example. And this is something that someone who's in the news business, they have to think about these things. It's hard to do because your news side of you says we have to. The information's there. We have to share it to the public. But honestly, in terms of this show, I'm not going to. Because I'm not going to feed the beast, so to speak. I'm not going to contribute to the problem. And one thing we know is a problem is that these mass shooters do it for the attention. They do it. They often write manifestos about it. They post stuff on social media about it. They make videos about it, and they want the attention. In the video, he said he was bullied, and now they're all going to know who has the real power and stuff like that. So I'm not going to do it on this show. But I had a little crisis of conscience this morning. I was thinking a lot about that. I wanted to share with you what my thinking was on that. So speaking of the whole Parkland situation, we had a big topic on the show the past couple of weeks was the fact that Publix was basically being bullied by David Hogg and other anti-gun protesters because Publix donated to Adam Putnam. Now, Adam Putnam's a big NRA supporter.
And he's running for governor.
Yes. So it turns out one thing that broke today is David Hogg had been calling for Publix to donate double the money they gave to Putnam to the Stoneman Douglas Victims Fund, $1 million, and never support an NRA politician again. Well, it turns out that Publix is not going to cave to the pressure on that. Let's see. They basically... They said, while the supermarket chain tried to wiggle its way out of the protest by announcing it would stop all political donations, turning over what would amount to $1 million extortion payment wasn't going to be in the cards. So they basically said this week, Fred Gutenberg, a Hogg ally and father of 14-year-old Parkland victim Jamie Gutenberg, published a series of tweets recounting how Publix CEO Ted Jones had informed him on Tuesday that the company wasn't going to be victimized by a shakedown scheme, which is exactly what it was.
Absolutely.
So Publix might actually be standing up against that.
Mm-hmm.
But another thing that was really interesting that came out of the whole Publix thing, and I told you this was something that could happen with that. So when David Hogg was doing this and saying they're donating to Adam Putnam, I said this could very well backfire on you.
Mm-hmm.
Because what's going to happen is you're going to have conservative groups out there start boycotting businesses that support liberal causes like Planned Parenthood or something.
Mm-hmm. You said that, right.
That's already starting to happen. But there's another way that this backfired on them as well. And I had wondered about this. I remember when this first came out, and I think Bud was the first one to tell me that, oh, well, Publix has donated to Adam Putnam. And I said, okay, have they donated to any Democrats? Or they've donated to any other causes? Because a lot of these businesses, they will donate to both.
Sure.
Happens all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And that wasn't being reported. Well, it turns out that they do donate to a lot of liberal causes, a lot of causes that maybe David Hogg and others support. It turns out Publix has contributed to the YMCA, who is a member of the Coalition to Stop Gun Violence.
Mm-hmm.
They have contributed to support same-sex marriage.
Mm-hmm.
They have contributed to United Way, some chapters have funded Planned Parenthood,
mm-hmm.
and to other liberal causes. And because of what David Hogg and the anti-gun liberals did, Publix is not only not going to donate to Adam Putnam, but they're not going to donate to any political causes.
Hoorah!
So all of those liberal causes, leftist causes that Publix has been supporting, they're not going to get any support either. And some of those were anti-gun causes, as it was being pointed out. So it actually kind of backfired on them because they're like, aha, we got them. Well, now you're not going to get their support for the things that you support. So that was one way it's backfired. But another way it's backfired is exactly what I predicted. Right when you start going after these businesses who support Adam Putnam or something and say they can't do that, you're going to have conservatives go after businesses that support liberal causes. And I specifically mentioned on the show Monday when I was hosting for Bud, I mentioned Planned Parenthood, that we could easily have die-ins for Planned Parenthood and all that. Well, it just so happens that Alveda King, niece to Martin Luther King Jr.,
mm-hmm.
wrote a letter to Starbucks. Starbucks just closed all of their stores recently because they wanted racial sensitivity training. We went over that on the show recently. And Alveda King said, if you want to be against racism, you should stop supporting Planned Parenthood as well. Now, the CEO of Starbucks, Kevin Johnson, and I have some audio here of it, he was asked about this on TV recently, and he kind of played ignorant, saying he didn't know that Starbucks was giving to Planned Parenthood. Actually, here's the audio of him reacting.
I don't know if you saw Martin Luther King Jr.'s niece op-ed in the Washington Examiner, and she says if Starbucks wants to end racism, it will stop funding Planned Parenthood. You going to stop funding Planned Parenthood?
Well, I'm not aware that we do fund Planned Parenthood, so I haven't read the op-ed and I can't comment on that.
Okay.
But I'm not aware that we do that.
Well, Alveda King says Starbucks had racism in its corporate identity long before the April arrest. Through its corporate donations, it contributes to one of the most racist organizations in our nation's history, Planned Parenthood, the largest single provider of abortions in the United States. And again, this is from Alveda King in the Washington Examiner.
Well, I'm not aware of it. You know, what I am aware of and do believe in is that we want to create a great customer experience for every customer that visits our stores. And yesterday's investment in this training was all about a foundational event, and it was about investing in the future of Starbucks.
So I've already commented over and over again how I believe the closing the store for a day was just ridiculous. This idea that there's an epidemic of racism in Starbucks across the country is just silly. But I just find it interesting now that if we're going to start a precedent of all these boycotts because they contribute to things we don't agree with, it's going to backfire on you leftists, because now you're going to have conservatives come out and say, well, you're contributing to this, you're contributing to that. If you don't stop, we're going to call for a boycott. Exactly what I predicted. This is one example. You're going to see more of this on both sides. It's not good for the future of the country because it's more of this political division. Just in one area more that we're going to have political division that we didn't have in the past. I'm not looking forward to this, but I'm telling you, it's probably going to happen.
You would think that customer care would be part of the introduction to new employees, and that why would they have to, have a mass training of everybody.
It was a giant PR stunt to stave off the boycott. That's all it was. 407-916-5400. Text to 23680. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee. We'll be right back.
It would be beyond reason not to listen to Yaffee on your TuneIn Radio app. Download the app today and search Beyond Reason Radio. The conscience in your ear telling you the difference between right and wrong. Yaffee is back on the air.
So it's amazing to me. It's stunning to me, actually. It shouldn't be at this point, but it's stunning to me how President Trump finds a way to dominate the news cycle every single day. And the way he does it's amazing. So, by the way, he just tweeted 4 hours ago. He tweeted, "Fair trade!" exclamation point. That was his tweet. That's it. Fair trade. That's because he's adding tariffs on steel and aluminum from the EU, which is going to cause economic problems for us. But hey, fair trade. But he tweeted out this morning. I mean, he knows this is going to get him tons of attention. And it's amazing. He's tweeted out that he's giving a pardon to Dinesh D'Souza.
Yes.
And apparently he's thinking about giving pardons to Martha Stewart and Blagojevich. So not only is he giving pardons out, but he's tweeting about it, and he's giving pardons out to really famous people. That's why he's doing it for the attention. It's stunning. Why people are like, how could he do this? He's abusing executive authority. But he's doing it because you're talking about it, and it gets him all the attention. But I wanted to focus real quick on something else he tweeted a couple of days ago, and it has to do with Jeff Sessions. And it actually all started with Trey Gowdy, who was on, I believe this was CBS, where he said this. And he was talking about Jeff Sessions and why Trump is so frustrated with Jeff Sessions as Attorney General. This is what Trey Gowdy said.
If I were the president and I picked someone to be the country's chief law enforcement officer, and they told me later, oh, by the way, I'm not going to be able to participate in the most important case in the office, I would be frustrated too. That's how I read that, is Senator Sessions, why didn't you tell me this before I picked you? There are lots of really good lawyers in the country. He could have picked someone else.
So Trump saw that interview, quoted that interview directly, and then after it said, and I wish I did. Trump saying he wished he picked someone else. Now, when I first saw this, I was like, this is completely ridiculous. This is so, if you don't like Jeff Sessions as your Attorney General, fire him. Fire him. You know why he won't fire him? Because he doesn't want to look like he's obstructing the Russia investigation. That's why he won't fire him. He doesn't want to upset some of his base, and he doesn't want it to look like he's obstructing the Russia investigation. So he's just going to bash him publicly. Have you ever seen a president do anything like this?
So that's public intimidation, in other words.
Yeah, that's public intimidation. He's trying to get Jeff Sessions to quit. Jeff Sessions ain't going to quit. So why do we keep doing this? It's just a giant show at this point. It's basically Celebrity Apprentice in the White House. This is what's happening. But there's something that both of them said that I don't quite understand. They keep saying that if Jeff Sessions knew he was going to recuse himself, why didn't he tell the president before he became Attorney General? Here's the problem with this, and this has been the narrative everywhere. Jeff Sessions didn't know when he became Attorney General that he was going to have to recuse himself. Jeff Sessions became Attorney General in February. He was sworn in early February. He did not recuse himself till almost a month later at the beginning of March. The whole Russia thing did not become an issue until after Jeff Sessions was sworn in as Attorney General. So this whole idea that Jeff Sessions should have told Trump he was going to recuse himself before he became Attorney General doesn't make any sense. Because Jeff Sessions, there's no evidence to suggest that Jeff Sessions had any idea he was going to recuse himself. Because there wasn't an issue there to begin with. It didn't become an issue until Al Franken made it an issue later on and others after he was sworn in. And frankly, I never thought the Jeff Sessions thing was a big deal because he met with the ambassador for other matters as senator, and they made it a much bigger deal. So he maybe didn't have to recuse himself. There is an argument to be said there. But this whole idea that he knew ahead of time he was going to have to recuse himself and should have told Trump, what? He didn't know. I mean, I was there. So it's one argument I really didn't understand. When you look at the timeline, that argument doesn't fly with me. All right, I appreciate you listening to the show. If you miss any of the show, you can catch the podcast of it anywhere that podcasts are available. It's on Facebook Live as well. Like the Beyond Reason Radio Facebook page. And, well, I will catch you guys next time.